Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, then I'd like to introduce Clark Kooning, and I apologize, MMR. And Clark, I apologize for you. You're exactly right. I should have notified you. I talked about this before I started the show, but I guess you weren't on the thing at that time, and I should have sent you an email. And I do apologize for that. I'm just trying to accommodate everybody best way I think that we can get the shows done. And this is the first time we've had this kind of time frame difference. So I apologize to you. Appreciate you staying around. And so we'll turn to Clark Kooning now for his first session of, or his second session of his build along, doing a downtown deco kit.
All right. I have to move you people. There we go. Okay, so this is part one of actually the build. So as we talked about the Downtown Deco plaster, this is the little first timers bar. This is a little kit that's a great kit for a beginner, and it's owned by Randy Peacock. So if you haven't ordered your kit, you can still order your kit and you know, catch up on the build with the YouTube, or catch up a little later with our by working on your own. So a little bit of planning, you know, when we talk about buildings, we should always think about what we're going to do. Now, we're doing a clinic, so it's not like you're going to pick the building, but generally you would, you know, you would look at different buildings and think about, you know, why you need that building and where you need to put it. So you need to look for a structure, develop a concept for the type of structure required, like why do you need that type of structure? You can research the prototype if you want to build something directly off a prototype. Find or locate a kit that suits your needs, and develop an outline for assembly, whether you're scratch building, kit bashing, or building out of a kit. You want to read the directions. Sometimes changing the order of things is easier for you. It may not be, but a lot of times there's a reason for why the instructions are made that way, or tell you to do it that way. So you want to gather all your materials, because there's nothing worse than getting started and then not having what you need to continue. So, and then enjoy the process. So, and the other thing that you always want to look at is, of course, your scale, the era, location, and family resemblance. I could do a whole clinic on just family resemblance on, and it's not just related to structures, it's related to everything on that layout: scenery, structures, cars, and locomotives. So in engineering, you know, you want to develop a little engineering plan to build your structure, especially if you're scratch building. In this case, we're following kit plans. You do want to build it in substructures because it makes it a lot easier to handle. In this little kit, there is basically only one substructure. So, but it does make it a little bit easier when you're building a sort of a multiple structure that you have to all build together. It reduces your stress as the project is that's much manageable when it's broken down in sizes. Some of you may have know who Red Green is. And he said, I once took engineering, but I didn't take all of it. And boy, is that true for model railroading. Okay, so woohoo, our kit arrived. It looks like this, comes in a little box. And it's got stuff in it. So you open it up and look, there's instructions. Who knew? Now, instructions versus my way. Read the instructions prior to starting the kit. You want to just familiar yourself with all the parts. And if you start ahead, if you sort of wanted to get going, or if you, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to change some of the process and some of the suggestions that Randy makes because I have done this in classes before, and I know a few changes to help those who have never built a plaster kit. So choose your peril. Oh, look what we got. We got some paper signs. We got a bunch of bubbly wrap with stuff in it, and a little bag of detail parts, usually a couple doors and some plastic. So the walls are made from plaster. Who knew? So if you sent Downtown Deco an email, you got 2 complete sets of walls. So in all 2 sets are spread out. We just want to work on 1 set. We're going to keep that other set either as for something that you can make a mistake on the first set, or you can build another one almost completely as a redo or just an extra building. Remember, hydrocal is strong, but when using kits, there can be small and delicate pieces. Use care when handling the parts. And if you have a broken part, you can just glue them together, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You can also send Randy a little email, and he will actually replace them. But usually if you haven't lost any of the little parts, like if it's really gone into, you know, micro parts, then you want to order another one. But if not, you can just glue them up actually. Here's one that I dropped, and you can see the cracks in it up here. And this is after I glued it and painted it. And as far as I'm concerned, it just adds character to the wall. So just glue the pieces back together. I like to use yellow glue. And before you do anything else, just glue it back together, lay it flat, and go from there. So when working with these kits, here's a great tip. Put some old carpet or a couple towels on the floor between you and your workbench, so that when you do drop a wall or two, it lands on something soft and necessarily won't break, or at least not break into multiple pieces. So if not, you may be like our friend and want to find a jug. So most pieces that come out, even with a mold, have what's called a draft angle on them. And the reason why they put this draft angle on is so that the parts can be removed out of the mold, whether it be plastic or hydrocal molds or anything. There's a slight angle on them so that the parts can come out. Now, this is very important. Know what edges you're looking at, okay? The first wall you'll see is smooth. There's no detail on it. You'll see on the next one, you'll actually see that there's molded detail into that. Do not sand the detail part off. It's very easy to do, trust me. DPM buildings are exactly the same as this. Do not sand the detail pieces off. You just want to clean up the edges that don't have detail on them. Now, flashes the thin ridges, it's usually squirted out with the plastic, or in this case, the hydrocal squirts out of the mold a little bit, and will create flash along the surfaces. Now, we're going to remove that. Now, one of the things when you square up the main walls and you're doing the bottom is that a lot of people will just take the sandpaper and sort of do it freehand. And what happens is you tend to lift a little bit as you get towards the one end, and you start to round this corner. And that becomes a pain when you go to mate the 2 walls together, because you've got a rounded edge and now you got a big gap. So here's a little trick that I learned from Miles Hale. Basically, I take a piece of melamine shelving and cut it into a little piece. I take a piece of sandpaper and just use spray adhesive and glue that right down onto that piece. And then I just take a little piece of 1x4 and screw it in. So make sure it's at 90 degrees to the sandpaper. And then by sliding your wall and not lifting it, you just slide it across there, you're not going to get those rounded corners. It's a real easy thing to make if you don't have one. Now, remember, flash removal, not detail. So over here, you can see where some of the flash is. All right. And you want to remove that. You can see up here, here's some up here. That little piece there is actually detail. That's molded in. So you don't want to take that out. So the easiest way to clean off the flash is to use a chisel blade or in the back of an X-Acto knife. And these little sanding sticks are just perfect for cleaning up these castings. Remember, thin ridges are the injected molded parts, or in this case, the plaster. And I have this in here twice just so you remember not to take off the detail. Again, don't take off the detail. Okay, so once you have all the castings cleaned up, this is a change from the instructions. In Randy's case, he suggests to do it with a flat white spray can, just giving it a light coat. I'm going to suggest you use a clear matte. And I'll tell you why later on. It'll be in the next segment. It won't be in this section, but you'll see why. And it's just a little trick I have found. If you muck it up, we can fix stuff. If not, you're kind of stuck. But if you use the matte finish, you'll find out it works really well. So you just want to give everything a light coat with this. Make sure you do all the edges. And when you have it flat like this and you spray it, you'll see it. Once you have enough is when it will start pooling on the surface. When you first shoot it, that hydrocal will absorb that spray like nothing. So when it just starts to pool on there, it isn't disappearing almost instantly, you know you got enough. Okay, now we're gonna time to open the door on this place. So on the front door, we need to cut out the front door. Reason we do this is because the door has windows in it. So you want to soften the plaster by brushing on a little water. And then we're going to use our 1/8 drill and we're going to drill 4 holes in each corner. Then we're going to take our X-Acto knife, score between the holes, and then you can add more drill holes and make it like Swiss cheese and keep using your blade to score a little bit of the plaster. And then it becomes really easy to remove. Do not force this process because you will break that front wall. So here I have the front wall. I've already used a little bit of water on it and I drilled my 1/8 holes in the corner. And now I have this little Dremel drill and I used it to drill into it, but a little pin vise works great and you don't have to worry. Again, I put a little drop of water in it with a brush and just smoosh it around a little bit on the door to make it a little softer. And then I make sure I take my X-Acto knife and I go from hole to hole and I'm scoring this. Now I will actually make an X as well. And then you can take a hole, you can see here in the picture here where I've scored it and across. So then you can take your drill and just drill more holes. Now you got to be a little careful here. Don't see this one here. I've actually gotten too close to the wall. Don't get too close to the wall. It will just break out and then you've got your door opening. Okay. And be thankful you only have to do the front door. You don't have to do the back door at all. And that's what it should look like. Front door, back door, still solid. Now, let's assemble the walls. I like to use yellow glue, but it's your choice. You can use anything you want. I go out and buy a big gallon of yellow glue and I go to the little dollar store around the corner and I buy these squirt bottles and I fill them up and I use this for applying glue. I also have been buying these little, you get 30 of these bottles with these metal pins in it that are nice and clear. And if you thin this down, it'll go through that really easy. You can use white glue for this, but I really prefer the yellow. So now you want to test fit the walls to the front wall and they go on the inside. They don't go on the side. Okay. They go on the inside and you want to test the 2 front walls. Make sure that it's relatively flush here and go from there. Once you know that they're good and you know where they're going, you can use some yellow glue and ensure that the wall is square. Now I do something, and I do this all on my DPM buildings too. I put them in about a 1/16 of an inch. And I have this little reveal here. And I do that for scenic purposes. When you weather that and stuff, you'll really see it. Now, a lot of times, you know, if there's another building close to it, you'll never see it. But it's one of my things I do, and I've been really happy with the way it turns out. Okay, so once you've got them, basically, I gotta move this. Once you have the two front walls and you got them square, let them dry. And do not glue in the back wall, okay? You do not want to do anything with the back wall. Just let the two walls dry for about an hour or so. Take a nap, you deserve it. You've been working hard. Now, the back wall, most kits, especially plaster kits, are dimensionally not the same as the front kit or front wall, especially if you put that little reveal on it. So when you go to measure this, you're going to find, oh crap, it won't slide in there. So I know the back wall and the front wall, my two side walls, will not be square. They'll be splayed. So you want to sand that on both edges until it slips right in between there. Okay, just it should be fairly snug, but not that you're going to force it. Okay. Now, after you've got that back wall, you need to be careful here. You're going to dry fit the wall, clamps and squares, and make sure it's nice and square. Now, don't get too excited and just drop in the rear wall. Ask me how I know. When I was building the first one, I did exactly that. I just got so excited and forgot to measure and sand it and make it fit. And what happened is, you can see on this one, see how this wall was splayed out? See how it's on an angle here? See on the second one, it's nice and straight because I did it right. So make sure you sand this to fit in between here. All right. And as I said, repeat slide for the instructor. Okay, so we're going to check our doors for fit. Do not glue the doors in. I'll let you all know when you're supposed to do that. So you want to cut them out. I like to use a sprue cutter, a nice clean sprue cutter. And I want to make sure they fit properly in the back. This little gap, that's just from the mold and stuff. That's not a problem. But you want it to lay square in here. All right. And you're going to use your little sanding stick or whatever to make sure it lays flat. Sometimes you have to open it up. All right. The same thing with the front door. Well, I guess see how this one's a little tight here. It's on a slight angle. I should open that up a little bit more so that that door sits perfectly in there. Okay. And so you have your front door opening, you have your rear door opening, and basically it's assembled. Now, after you let it dry for some time, I'm going to show you how to fix the gaps in the wall. So if you look at my little pointer here, and I'm very proud of my little pointer, you'll see that there's a slight gap in that wall. And you can really see it here, because usually the plaster walls, even though if you sand the back of this wall, you're never going to get it perfectly flat. So you get this gap. How do we fix that? It's actually quite easy. So we're going to fix that gap by using white hydrocal, just like the building is molded in. So we have that little hydrocal in a little cup, and we have some water. And we're going to put some water in here until it becomes like thin pancake consistency. All right. It should almost drip off your stir stick, but not quite. And then you want to take a little brush, and you're going to dip it right into the bottom of the hydrocal, and you're going to just touch it to the side of the wall in your gap. Don't paint it. You want to touch it. And what will happen, it will just flow in there. The dry hydrocal will pull that wet liquid right in there and make it nice and clean, and it will fill in that gap. You can see how nice and that is. There's no gap now compared to on the other side of the brush. Now you can also fix doors if you've got, if you've did like I did on the one where I had that hole a little too close to the edge. So I can do the same thing. I can just fill in a little bit of that hydrocal. And with that method, you just tab it, it'll suck it right in, and just leave it. When it dries, you sand it to where you need it. Now on the other one, on the wall here, because we have detail here, and sometimes you get your brush and the hydrocal fills in some of the detail, you want to just take your X-Acto knife and clean that edge up. Okay. Now, once we've done that, you can see how that's all filled in. We're just going to give it a real quick spray to seal all our corrections. Just give it a real light coat of the clear. So that's the wall assembly done, and let the wall dry, and we'll see you in the next segment, which will be all about painting. Now, I'm hoping that my new specialty camera will be here, and I can actually do that live to show you how to paint the walls. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. So anybody have any questions?
This is not a question, but when I've assembled like York buildings or downtown Deco buildings, and I did the same filling gap that you did, but one thing I did do is tape up the brick edges.
You can do that, sure.
Yeah, and that way you don't lose that detail, and you can then, and then when everything dries, you can just grain the. I think that's quite wrong too, but just brick strip the where the bricks are. Yeah,
I'm just careful.
Well, I'm a slob, so I guess I can't say that. At least that's what my wife will tell me.
No, that is a very good trick. I mean, it will speed up your build because you're not going back and fixing stuff. There's no.
Yep.
Any other tips you have? Anything I didn't?
What was the address to get the kit?
The address to get the kit. Oh, hold on. Please hold while we technically get to you. Okay.
Zoom Master put it in the chat section.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Righty.
Downtowndeco.com.
Yeah. But make sure you send them an email after you've paid for the kit and tell him you're doing my clinic, because he will send you the extra castings. All those who have gotten it, did you get your extra castings?
Yep.
Good. Yeah, Randy's pretty good.
Yes.
Clark, let me ask you a question. Why do you like the yellow glue rather than the white?
I just find it a little bit more intolerant to sort of the water that we're going to use when we start painting.
Gotcha. Anybody else have any questions for Clark?
Jim, I spent years as a cabinet maker and carpenter and finished carpenter and stuff like this, and the yellow glue was always, it was just a little thicker, it's a little more sturdy, and it definitely makes a stronger joint.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that I really prefer, is that it is much stronger. Now, the other thing that you can do with this that I really didn't show, and I probably should, and it's a very small building, so you have to kind of maybe use a little stir stick or something to get in there, but you can make a bead of glue on the inside so that you're not just counting on the two mating edges. You can actually make a weld of glue in there. Just remember, don't get too close to the roof, because you want to put your roof on.
Gotcha.
Is there a specific paint we should get for this?
Just a ceramic coat paints that we, you can buy in the stores, and it's pretty easy to find. You can pick whatever poison color you want. in, you know, those type of paints, this the cheap Michael's dollar store paints. Now I do like the Woodland Scenics concrete better than anything else because it's kind of a greeny gray, but that's me. That's about all you need. And now in his instructions, I think he, and I even said it in the pre-clinic, he goes with a ready or a sort of an orangey brick, but looking at the color of the paper signs, I would tend to go more of a brown or a cinnamon type of color as the main brick, but that'll be up to you guys. You can pick and choose. You got two kits to play with. So
also might mention, if you'll go to the website, newtraxmodeling.com, under the page of the build along, there's a detailed list of all of the tools, the paints, all of that is included on that website. So Clark, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I got to you late tonight. I hope you have a great birthday party.
Yeah, well, it's not mine, but my brother-in-law and his wife were supposed to be over there at like 8 o'clock. So anyway, we will talk to you guys later. That's
great. Let me ask you that. Let me make sure I got this right. The tool segment that you mentioned that you could do, I got you scheduled for that the next show on the 31st.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a good birthday.
Okay, good night.
Next, I'd like